was a typo. And I'm like, welcome to Comics League Live. I'm Jared. I'm here with DM Ray. What's up, man?
Life is good. Greetings from Winnipeg up north here, or Winterpeg as I like to call it. I am happy to be on the show. Very grateful. Thank you for having me on here.
Anytime. So first question I always ask all my new guests is, what got you into comics, man?
My older brother.
All right.
It predates the limits of my memory. So he liked, he was born late 70s, so he's Gen Xer. I'm born early mid 80s, so I'm technically millennial, barely, but I fall under the category. And he grew up, and he has a better memory of the 80s than I do. Like, I was 5 by 1989, but anyways, he had Masters of the Universe, Transformers, he had like Thundercats, all the cool stuff, but he was also around for when comics, cartoons, and toys combined to make parents' wallets ache a lot. And hey, check out this cartoon, but we got a comic too, and make sure you go to Toys R Us later to buy the stuff so you can act it out while you watch the cartoons. Spider-Man is Amazing Friends. My brother really liked the Incredible Hulk, even though it was one season. But through all of that, I would be sitting with them and absorbing this stuff. And I went through the 90s liking comics. I went through the 2000s. I had the privilege of watching the proper upswing of comics told via movies, starting with Blade in 98, and then the big two following, which was X-Men in 2000, and then Sam Raimi's original Spider-Man, which did leaps and bounds for what it was they represent. I was so grateful to be around at that era and grow up with it as it happened and experience that magic for a first time without it being spoiled, without hearing about it in a different pop culture media outlets, and just being able to say, this is why I like comics, and people finally get it, which is really awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. That's in many ways, it's like, yeah, the increased attention on this is pretty good, because people started to see comics as more as like a legitimate art form instead of like, oh, it's just the kid books. However, you then have people getting into it, or like writing it, that don't necessarily know how to do it, or like don't know like what makes these characters so special.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's a really tough and difficult dynamic to navigate those waters, what you're saying, because I think the points you're making are sound. It's really tough to say that without sounding like you're a gatekeeper or anything like that, because there's a very tough balance there. But I for sure I really think if you've got a well-established franchise, the bare minimum is the homework is read at least half of the content that you're going to start writing for. And that doesn't matter if it's 1,000 books, you should be reading 500 of those, whatever those things are. And it's a very interesting dynamic to be at this stage now of comic books. Before it was like, can we get at least a good movie? Now it's, man, how do we cut the fat here sometimes?
I know, exactly. And X-Men Superfan asks, who are your favorite superheroes?
Daredevil by far. I always love Matt Murdock. I always love Dan Ketch as Ghost Rider, and I'll explain why in a little bit later on in this show. Ghost Rider was a really neat dynamic to have a kid that it was kind of like a remix of Peter Parker. He had this, dare I use the words, responsibility thrust on him. He has these abilities, be very like shady, if you will. But it was really neat seeing him trying to figure out these waters while there was all these dynamics going on with Kingpin, Death Watch, Blackout. And then eventually he had to tangle with Johnny Blaze before they became buddies, the original Ghost Rider. That was really, really cool. Those two are my favorite. I do heavily appreciate Invincible. I never read the book, but the cartoon definitely did its justice for me, at least. I really liked all of the dynamics in that. There's lots, but those are a couple just off the top of my head.
So I take it you're more of a Marvel guy instead of DC?
Yes, and I'm not anti-DC. Like, I do really appreciate a lot of the things that come out of their franchise and everybody who is involved in that craft. I find Marvel characters more relatable, and even if it's just such a shallow thing as all the cities actually exist, it's hard for me to feel for something like Keystone City or Gotham or Metropolis when buildings start falling to the ground and people are injured. But if you see something like it happened in New York, it just feels like more gravity. Like when you see Amazing Spider-Man 121, the death of Gwen Stacy, she dies in an actual area. So I've never been to New York, but if I ever were and I drive by that area, it's not historically sound, but in regards to media, historically that was a very famous thing that was tied together with that landmark. That just, I feel it hits more intimately for myself.
That's true. So you're a Daredevil fan. I got think of the Born Again show that came out a while back. Because personally, I really dug it.
Yeah, I really like it. I have mild concern, and this is from a Canadian perspective. I really hope they stick to the trend they are. I really hate it when people reflect too heavily on politics.
Oh, yeah.
And I have mild concern of here's the big evil guy in charge that's locking people up in cages. I hope they go a route that I'm not worried about. It's great so far. It's awesome. I hope it keeps being awesome.
The part that was concerning to me, because I'm a Punisher fan, so I was like, oh no, how is this current crop going to handle him? I think they did it pretty well considering. I was very concerned because, okay, so there's a dude that uses firearms for his like superpower, if you will. How is modern Hollywood gonna really properly represent him, particularly after the BS that they put him through in the comics previously?
Yes, I'm interested in, because he's going to be in the next Spider-Man movie. How on earth, because that's heavily driven by kids. That's a big kid pull, that movie.
I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
What if I was, say, in the next 30 seconds justify this right away? I'm like, okay, if Kingpin owns him, maybe Kingpin will hire him. Rubber bullets. I'm not saying that's the best of solutions, but in 30 seconds, that's the first thing that comes to mind. You never know, right? Like it could be
stun guns or something like that.
Well, in this current climate, maybe this is just another universe, the multiverse and everything else. I just hope he's done respectfully, like you're saying.
Yeah, because it's like he's one of those characters that I always have to be worried about, because again, it's like post like even 2021, they did that thing where like they killed him off, had someone else take over as Punisher.
Yes,
that was basically the version, same backstory as Punisher, but not Frank Castle. And then they're like, and then the MCU has them, and then the comics are like, oh crap, we actually do have to have him in there.
Yes. The one thing I do heavily appreciate of a strength that comic movies have is they can breathe life into comics. And I mean, you look at the last Superman movie, bunch of young kids are going into local comic shops and, hey, I want a Superman comic. What do you got? And you just use that great example. Okay, Frank, Mr. Berthnall is Frank Castle, and he lots of people love him. Let's bring him back in because we need these comic shops teeming with audience members.
Yeah, and it's like for me, I was people converted by the movies because the Snyder Cut had just been announced, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'll dig back through my comics again, and then that's how I got back into it and like start stuff.
Yeah. Justice League, that's bittersweet for me. Obviously, the first release was a bit of a dumpster fire.
That's an understatement.
Snyder he's a tough one for me to justify or bash. First and foremost, the thing I love about him the most is he generates buzz. Like there's no doubt about that. The guy is able to do things in a way, even if it's quote unquote not the best, it still drives topic discussion. It still drives attention. It's done in such a way that it's like I want to hate some of the stuff he does, but at the same time, the repercussions almost justify what he's done.
The internet reaction is so good, man.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. Yeah, I mean the obvious one being Batman versus Superman. I think if I personally, and who am I in the realm of movies? I'm a nobody, but if I, again, 30-second pitch, in this case to Zack Snyder, I would say anytime you have an idea where you want to draw from multiple different comic books, stories in specific, many different story arcs, use maybe 2 and stop yourself. He does a lot of, he'll take really good story arcs, and if they were metaphorically well decorated cakes, he'll take all the icing off all the cakes and put it on a new cake and be like, this is great. But I mean, Doomsday in Batman vs Superman is an example of that. He just gleaned off, he fought Doomsday and died fighting Doomsday. The rest of it is lost. He's a tough cookie for me to nail down. I don't know if I like him or hate him. I don't know.
With me, it's like I've always been a fan because the way he always treated the characters was more of like gods and mythology and stuff. I appreciated that. But again,
yes.
I do critique that BVS, particularly combining Dark Knight Returns and then DOS, was maybe not the best move, because if you picked one, hey, that's fine. Pick one, because either of those you could make a pretty decent movie in there.
Yes.
But it's like if you combine them both, I mean, if you combine them both in the way it was done, you lose. I agree with you. You do lose some of the like impact of like, because the thing about Death of Superman particularly is what made that so impactful was the lead into that as well. Doomsday punching against the wall, him constantly like destroying things in the surrounding town, and then coming to Metropolis and fighting Superman.
He was like a pint-sized kaiju just destroying a city.
Yeah, and then he kicked the Justice League's ass. So I'm like, that Justice League sucked back then, so that's not very hard.
But with that said, that's a great segue, because that's the other thing. Zack Snyder, he's passionate enough to want to combine punchlines. These are good things. I should have them in it. But a joke is terrible if it's just the punchline. That's the thing. So, I mean, what if there was a Justice League movie first and then Death of Superman? That's a completely different take, and it's probably going to be awesome. Dare I use this phrase, even if Snyder did it. It's not condensed and forced and missing all the lead up to these cool dynamics. And it's frustrating. I want it to be good, you know?
With me, I always forgave that, because it's also judging into the fact that he wanted to do the build up. He wanted to do Superman 1, 2, and 3, Batman, and all that stuff. But then WB was trying to catch up to Marvel. So like, no, you have to get Justice League now. So, and I always try and approach this like, okay, it's not the perfect adaptation of like DOS and Dark Knight, but as it relates as a story in and of itself, as an independent piece of media, how was it? I always tell people, though, watch the extended cuts of all of his movies. They make a lot more sense, because my problem with him, and this comes from me as a huge fan of his work, obviously, it's that he has trouble telling a complete story in 2 hours, in 2.5 hours. Because again, Justice League, the Snyder cut, is fantastic in my opinion, but it's like, if the studio, it's
not one movie, really.
Yeah, I mean,
just too much, you know.
I think you could have gotten away with it at like 3 hours, maybe, because the Lord of the Rings movies had just come out, and they were like 3. You've had 3-hour movies that for so long, and plus the first Justice League movie, I think that warrants a 3-hour film.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, Endgame was 3 hours and 1 minute. Yeah. Lord of the Rings, they were all scaled back to just over 2.5 hours each. The extended cuts were just over 3 hours a pop. It is doable. Apparently, Doomsday is. I don't know if this is confirmed, but I did see. Apparently, it's going to be 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh my god!
Suddenly, the Snyder cut. It's almost like, I don't know how else to put it. It's almost like the shortcomings, for lack of better wordings, of Snyder are just that the things he want to do are ahead of his time. He's almost certain parts almost a pioneer for, but I like a lot of where he wants things to go. And I've said this on other podcasts before. If Zack Snyder was in charge of the MCU and started with the first movie, by Iron Man 2, he would have assembled the Avengers and fought Thanos already. That's the best way to put it. But again, I'm saying that in sarcasm. As you already pointed out, he did have a lot of pressure for trying to catch up to Marvel accordingly.
Because again, the original plan was to have 3 Superman movies was his original job. And they're like, you want to have a Batman. I always feel like also with like in BVS, the Batman thing. If we had seen like the first time we saw Ben Affleck's Batman was like as a more classic Batman, and we saw his fall from grace, and then BVS happens and you see like his more brutal killing Batman,
Yes.
I don't think that many people would have been so upset about it.
Yeah, he was forced to basically almost retired.
Yeah.
And just meeting Superman and Wonder Woman. It's not that it's wrong. I mean, it's a story. People can tell them however they want, but it's you can tell there's too much force going in, regardless of whether it's him and or Warner Brothers trying to push these things to happen. Well, if you're going to have Batman meet these people, he doesn't need to be pushing retirement, but they wanted the burnout so he could be more violent, more Zack Snyder essentially. But I hope. I've been hearing that apparently Zack Snyder's chasing for a Batman movie on Netflix. Netflix being bought out. I just hope it continues to escalate in quality and stuff that people like. You know.
Well, specifically, he wants to do Dark Knight, like a straight up panel, like 300 style panel to screen of Dark Knight Returns. That I think he can do very well.
Yeah, I mean he did that for the Watchmen, with the exception of the replacement of Squid, but most people give that a pass
because it's like, yeah, I was always fine with that because the Squid thing, I'm like, okay, Alan Moore.
I mean, cool concept. I mean, at the end of the day, when you start doing like it's comics, as long as the realities are consistent, I don't care. It doesn't matter if it's like Rick and Morty, Gazorpa and everybody's ears are actually their arms and stuff like that. I mean, as long as it's consistent, doesn't matter for me. But I really want to see some good come out of. A lot of people didn't like the last Superman movie, and understand it's very lighthearted. It's very different.
With me, the only part I really hated was the Kryptonians sending him here to rule and like basically have a super harem. That's the part where I was like, what?
Well, at the end, it's if I remember correctly, it's proven that was an alteration, or it didn't show all of the thing. I only saw it once.
No, what happened was, okay, so Lex goes to, because when we
first see it, he goes to the Fortress of Solitude and gets the data.
Yeah, well, to set it up, he only has half of the message because it came with him in the ship, and then it crash landed, and then it got damaged. Engineer repairs it, then it has the entire thing, and different tech experts and James Gunn himself confirmed it's real. It's not like
it's legit. Okay, all right.
Like altered. And I'm like, oh, come on.
That part is a little frustrating. One thing, there seems to be a trend, and this is obviously just my opinion. People can disagree. For some reason, it's not cool to have good parents. I don't know why. I mean, when you have someone like Bruce Wayne, orphan, he still had Alfred as a good father figure. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he still had challenges because of dynamics of not having his parents. It's awesome, but it's okay to have a parental figure in that place. With that Superman movie, okay, well, his biological parents want him to just take over the planet, so they're not actually good. The viewers are obviously going to vilify with those parents. But then Clark Kent's Earth parents, they're like simple country bumpkins. Mm-hmm. But Clark Kent is supposed to be a good human being equivalent because he was raised with good values. That was the whole thing. I seen, for me, my main critique of that movie is the lack of parental influence, and that could be both good and bad. And the other one is there were times he seemed too much like Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Like if you're from a small town, usually there's certain values, be them right or wrong. That could be take off your hat when you walk into a building, or at least a church, or those type of things. The only time I felt like he was acting really like Superman is literally when he said Miss Lane.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was kind of slapsticking it up.
And he got his ass kicked like a lot.
Yeah, that's a tough one to justify. I mean, if they're going to go that route, I liked the reveal at the end that it was a Superman clone.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go real wonky and zany, here's a portal between realities, and we're gonna hide all our stuff there. And here's Mr. Terrific. Here's some T-spheres, and let's do some really, really cool wonky stuff. Here's a fire-breathing kaiju. Here's Starro in the background. Okay, Superman's bleeding all over the place. It's not a stretch to think, okay, they have a clone of him. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Cool. I can enjoy that. If I had to pick pass or fail, I give it a pass, but that doesn't mean 100%, if that makes sense. Like
with 51, me, I kind of gave it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 because here's the thing, the Krypton part is very important to me because I always saw Superman as like more the immigrant story, and when and even Gunn represented stuff. But when you make the place he came from like practically evil, and they send him there to like conquer Earth, I'm like, it doesn't sit well with me.
It's definitely different. It's one of the things when you start changing elements of a story at what point is it not the story?
And by the way, that the reason why Gunn made that change is because he goes, I wanted to make my version of Superman different from the ones that have come before. So I'm like, there's loads of things you could change before you change that.
That one is I give kudos for having or being so courageous. That's a brave
I mean, say what you want about Zack Snyder, but Krypton and Jor-El were amazing.
Yes, especially that opening scene to Man of Steel. That was really good.
Yeah, exactly.
But the one thing with the recent Superman movie is I just wish it had more of a cohesion of maturity.
Yeah, me too.
About him. That's the real one I felt. Take all the other stuff, the other elements. Like I remember going back to at what point is it not the story anymore? I remember when my friend and I were in a spirited debate online chat over Spider-Man 3. It just came out at the time, and I was a little disappointed. There's too many villains, too many things forced. It was very clear that, I mean, within 20 minutes, Venom is created and killed, and that's probably its own. I mean, I was saying to the guy, hindsight 2020, if there was a behind the scenes, like you never see Venom, but you see Spider-Man strip off the symbiote behind the scene, or after credits rather.
Post credit, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, post credit scene, symbiote jumps on Brock. You're guaranteed Spider-Man 4, no problem. I felt there's just too much going on there. The whole pouty revenge goblin glider, yada yada yada. My buddy's like, well, I like a lot of villains because I saw that in the '90s cartoon. I personally hated the '90s cartoon. It was a little too forced, but that's just my opinion. I know that's not a common opinion, but he said to me, there should have been more villains, if anything. And I said to him at the time, I said, if I made a movie of Zorro and I used, in my version, he had a lightsaber and a DeLorean to travel through time, that could be a cool movie. That's a terrible Zorro movie, and that's my point. And I felt there's certain dynamics, like mentioning Kryptonians want Kal-El to take over the Earth. That starts leaning towards that. It's such a critical piece. You might as well have made him electricity Superman, you know?
Well, yeah. The other thing is because when you look at like the comic Superman, yes, Krypton is sometimes shown as like very cold and very emotionless, but Jor-El and Lara particularly are meant to be different from that. That's why they send their son to like this planet, because they're like, hey, they won't listen to us. We have to save some part of Krypton, so let's send our son out there. So it's like, why would you change that?
Yeah, that's a tough one to justify. I really hope that moving forward, assuming they do more with that version of Superman, I hope there's more of a tone learning from the first movie. Okay, I should be, if I'm really this powerful and people are going to look up to me, maybe I should start filling in that role and acting the part.
Yeah,
it's funny in a couple of jobs I've had where if somebody gets promoted to a position of leadership, regardless of whether it's a persona or regardless of whether it comes from a place of drive, wanting to do well, or it could come from a corruption of power type of position, they act differently. So for Clark Kent to be raised as a human and have these values, which he missed because he had like simpleton parents in this version of the movie, the country bumpkins, as I like to call them. You would, anytime you put that suit on and stop a car from hitting another car, are you all right? Well, I hope everything's okay. X-ray vision on the vehicle. I think your vehicle's fine. Maybe dings out from the inside of the trunk of the car, fixes the bodywork himself, and says, "I hope everybody has a good day," and flies away. Not, man, you almost hit that other vehicle, but good thing I was there to like. That's not Superman, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
The Superman and Lois, the one that just wrapped up.
Yeah.
The very opening scene is the antithesis to the movie that just came out. If you watch that opening scene to the first episode where he's reflecting in a place of maturity and happiness on his life, and it shows the scene, and it shows him in the classic suit, which I thought was an awesome throwback. Awesome. He stops the vehicle. He says, I forget what he says to the kid.
Because the kid,
he gives the hat.
He gives the hat to him. He goes, "Thanks, cool costume. Thanks, my mom
thanks.
made it." And then he took off. I love that.
Yeah, thanks. My mom made it. But even though it was happy and happy-go-lucky, he walks up to the kid like in a position where you can tell at any time he could crush anything. But instead, it comes from a position of, I helped you out. I was happy to do my job. Thanks for the compliment of my suit. Takes off, despite his happiness amongst him. But the part that Mr. Cornsweat, I think, just misses it. It's too much. I've already said this. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell arguing with each other. That's how I feel when I see him like arguing with Crypto, talking to number 4 / Gary the robot. It doesn't feel like a superior being. It feels like somebody that's desperate to make their next paycheck. In reality, he could like fly anywhere, collect any food anywhere, literally crush coal with his palms and make diamonds. I never felt that from him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's again, I have, because here's the thing, and that's actually an excellent point, because with me, Superman, I always feel like with Clark, he's supposed to be like the character that can endure the most amount of like punishment, him being like invulnerable, something like that. But he'll take it with a smile every time, because he knows, hey, I can take it, they can't necessarily take it. So when I see Superman getting like his ass kicked, having like his ribs broken very easily, seemingly, I'm like, because I'm sorry, Superman should not get his ass kicked the entire movie.
Yeah, and that's the other trend. If you've got a very powerful individual, sometimes if you're writing, it's hard to put in certain challenges. Like in a lot of cases, if you have a powerhouse of an individual, the writers might either render them unconscious or keep them busy fighting another powerhouse, so it focuses on the rest to justify the rest doing something. But I'd like to see some other type of trope, or break that trope rather, where maybe if I move fast enough to go save those people, I'm going to make a complete sonic boom, which is going to wipe out just as many people getting to them. Exactly. What do I do instead? How do I outthink this problem, you know?
What's kind of cool about that, so the Superman Returns Xbox game actually did something like this, where you play a Superman, but you're invulnerable, but your health is the city itself. So it's like, if you blast a street with heat vision, you could end up hurting your own health if you're going to try and like hit that target over there. So it's the way it did.
You're incentivized not to break things.
Yeah, exactly. I always thought, here's the way you do a Superman movie, but still do his power. You give him a threat he can't punch, like Parasite or any of those villains that require him to think his way through, instead of always like punch a robot. Of course, occasionally you can have that, because it's like those are some of his characters, like Zod. But it's like, if you really want to challenge him mentally, okay, use like Parasite, where he has to decide, okay, I can't touch him, because always he'll get more powerful. How do I take him out without like touching him?
I think the best writers that highlighted exactly what you're talking about is 1990 Superman the Animated Series.
Yes, 100%.
There was a lot of dynamics. Parasite you already brought up. There was, I remember, it's been a while since I've seen the show. I forget the name of the fella, but he had lasers that came out of his index fingers and he blinded Superman. I forget the episode. Well, anyways, Superman's blinded at that moment, so he's using his super hearing, and he throws a rock towards the guy could fly, and he laughs, you missed, and then it focuses in on Clark's ear, and he keeps walking to draw the guy in the way of the boulder as it falls on him. I'm like, hey, that's awesome. Like that's a dynamic way of showing he isn't just very fast and punches things and maybe once in a while burns things with his sight. There's a lot of different dynamics you can do. I remember the first time Jim Lee was going to start drawing for Superman, and that was an iconic era. I was reading about it in Wizard Magazine. I loved Wizard Magazine, man. But anyways, they had some interviews with Jim Lee, and he says, we want to do different dynamic things with what Clark can do. So everybody talks about these cool abilities, but you don't see him combine them as much as maybe he should. Maybe he should be freezing things with his breath and then blasting with the laser vision to shatter them. Maybe one or the two doesn't actually work on this application. And he brought up some other examples, but I thought, like, there's so many options there. It's unfair to make a powerhouse a trope where he hits hard, but we need to have him sidelined or incapacitated in a way so we can actually make this interesting for the others. Yeah. Now that's one thing in Batman versus Superman. That's one thing I really appreciated at the end with that fight with Doomsday. It was okay for Batman to be on the sidelines when he needed to be. Like at one point he uses his last gas grenade, and then you see him stand there and he's standing with his gun. Yeah, there's nothing left for him to do. He's on the sidelines watching these two duke it out.
He's like, what am I gonna do against this guy?
Yeah. At what he draws him back to the spear. There isn't much for him to do, and that's okay. This is time for the big guns to blow the dust off the big guns, and away we go and have some fun. That's if the timing's right and the writing's justified, you lead up to a good fight, let it happen, man.
And I just the other part about that scene I love Wonder Woman's entrance, where like she comes down, she's like full on cross arm, and then she like charges at him and is just grinning and enjoying the fight and stuff. And on that point, it's like that's the other thing that I think Zach actually nailed, is how to make Wonder Woman badass without losing the Wonder Womanness.
Yeah. The if I had to summarize exactly what you're describing there in one word, the word would be 300. And it reflected.
Well, exactly.
It was that gladiatorial Greeks. It was when you think of the hot cakes in 300, where they first collide and they're yelling at each other, is that the best you got? And then at the end, when they hold off that wave, and then it's attempted to wipe out the Spartans with all the arrows, and then they reflect back on what was said before, and it's Michael Fassbender in that scene. He's laughing. What's so funny? Fight in the shade, and that's what they're doing. That was what I saw with Wonder Woman against Doomsday. At one point, she gets like knocked back, and she drops her sword and shield. She's getting up and she's smiling, but not in an overcompensating way, or, oh, they need to see me smile here as I dust off my chin or something. No, she got up and like, okay, all right, I know not to do that again, you know,
in a while. Yeah.
I also love the line, like a skilled soldier, rather.
What nailed it for me is when Batman goes, I've seen a few women like you, and then Batman goes, I don't know you've ever known a woman like me. I'm like, that, because that's Diana. She's snarky when she really needs to be. And I'm like, that was the moment where I'm like, that sold me on Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman.
Yes. The thing with her is she's Israeli, and all Israelis have some military training. So I assume some of that spilled over into her ability. And I really liked her. She had a good contrast. If you have anybody in any type of combat sport, they have good confidence. They don't have to overcompensate and threat. They can be nice and chill. And that was a very passive thing. She was nice and chill when she wasn't in combat, because she's not intimidated by anything. She can be nice and calm. She's not skittish. She moves slow. Most predators out in the wild, everybody watches the predator, like the lion. Not everybody watches the zebra, but the zebra always has to keep eyes on the lion. She looks at whatever it is she wants. Her steps are intentional, but at the same time nonchalant. And then when the combat started, all the things that she didn't need to do before, she didn't need to show anybody. Okay, well, we do this now. And I did appreciate that.
Yeah, I definitely, and again, it's like even the Snyder Cut with the Amazons. Yeah, it's basically, it makes me think I would love for Zack Snyder to do an Amazons movie, because it would basically be, okay, just do 300, but with women. That's all you need.
And all the villains would be like different monsters. So yeah, I'm all in.
That's all. Just imagine the Wonder Woman versus Doomsday fight, but with a lot more Amazons.
Yes, and a lot more Greek monsters.
Yeah, that's all you need. Gorgons,
Done.
all that
Sold.
stuff. All that stuff. It's like even with like her movie, and then it's like even her in the Snyder Cut. I feel like he really nailed that. But let's get into. So tell me about Madcaps.
Yes, just getting a quick message here. Madcaps is my first book I've ever written. I just got to send a note here. Apologies. My wife has texted me. Okay, so Madcaps. This is a fantasy themed comic book. It's 3 issues long. It's a mini series. The whole thing takes place over one night. And anybody listening right now, here's a sales pitch I bet you've never heard before. I want you to imagine your best friend or your best circle of friends. The older you get, the less you get to see these people. And your very essence at times craves for them. It gets to such a level that even if you see them in the parking lot for 5 minutes and you haven't seen them in 6 months, that's a really good time. And you actually feel recharged from it. You wanted to see these people. This book is an homage to that level of camaraderie. If you've got friends like that, I know you'll appreciate this book. If you like fantasy, this is definitely up your aisle. This book, the premise is 4 friends meeting back at their hometown. They are unfortunately there to witness ground zero of an undead outbreak. They're able to stave off the outbreak by helping out the guards. They're not the mightiest of individuals in the land. At one point, 3 of them almost get killed by this outbreak. It's led to believe that the outbreak had something to do with a local drug issue, a fictional drug called Weave. One of the bodies that's getting hauled off to get burned, one of the individuals here recognizes him as a local junkie, and there's no bite marks on him. So it leads from there. There's a couple of cool surprises. The characters have some really nice, like, different powers and stuff. If you like fantasy, if you've got friends that you miss and you really want to see them, if you like books that are intellectually stimulating and don't have 60 years of lore that you have to have memorized before you have to read it, this is the miniseries for you. 3 issues. It's just shy of 70 pages total. All 3 issues are going to be purchased can be purchased rather on this Kickstarter. The follower count, I haven't had it this high this early compared to the other 2. And even if you aren't able to back it, if you click on that follow on that pre-launch link there, you'll be helping me out in regards to the algorithm. But the one last disclaimer, this is a little out of order of what I'm saying, but I mentioned there's a local drug in it. This is not a preachy book. So
okay, good.
There happens to be drugs in it, but that doesn't, I've made this joke before. In the 80s and 90s, that you go to the arcade and there's this lovely blue screen comes on with the USA crest on it, and it says "Winners don't use drugs." That is not my book.
Okay, good.
So there happens to be drugs in it. One thing I try really hard to do is I like to reflect reality, but I do everything possible to avoid politics. Not everybody's going to agree on everything, and I'm in Canada, so I consider myself neutral. I try to stay out of that stuff as much as possible. This book, you won't be finding me trying to teach you anything. I'm just trying to entertain, and I think the book reflects that accordingly.
Yeah, it does. And I've read the first 2 issues, and I'll agree with you on that. Not once did I ever feel like preached to or anything like that. I felt like honestly I was watching a D&D campaign.
Well, this book is actually based off of the first D&D campaign I ever ran. It was a homebrew. And the whole reason I started playing D&D is because, much like I referenced missing your friends, I moved across country for work, and I needed excuses to hang out with people. The main difference between the stories that I ran and this book is the main characters, the players I took out, and I injected it with my own characters based off of people I know and other references.
Okay.
But it is it definitely spawned from D&D, but I like to say it's more fantasy. Most people, when they read it, if I don't say D&D, they'll say, oh yeah, this is a cool fantasy book. But yes, it's also a D&D as well.
Good. I appreciate that. I appreciate that because I'm also a big like fantasy nerd because again, I grew up on the Lord of the Rings movies. Those are always my favorite. I'm not that much of a big fan of the Hobbit movies or the Rings of Power show. I felt like that was a major downgrade, but it's all good.
Well, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I feel The Hobbit, where it fell short, is similar to what Snyder with WB influence suffered.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like forced, but in the opposite, in The Hobbit, they stretched out into a trilogy. They didn't need to do that.
Yeah, just
as opposed to condensing, it did the opposite and stretched it out, kind of.
I'm like maybe like 2 movies you could probably get away with The Hobbit, because that's a long book, but it's like 3.
Yeah, 3 was excessive. I don't need to see Legolas in God mode killing everything.
Yeah, we just had 3 movies of him doing that, so it's like we don't necessarily need that. And it's like with the original trilogy, yeah, that was a trilogy because it's 1 movie per book.
Yes, that's exactly
it's like, that called for. It's not like imagine if they tried to cram in the entire trilogy in 1 movie.
Yeah, it'd be like the animated movie from the 70s.
Yeah.
No Shelob the Spider, no like a lot cut out.
Yeah, exactly.
Am I okay to share my screen?
Go ahead.
Let's do this. I have a couple covers to show off.
Hell yeah, I'm very much interested in that. So I'll unshare my screen then. All right, so let's see. Oh yeah, the covers look incredible, man.
This one here, this is done by my interior artist, Victor Medina. He came on for issue 2. Issue 2, he wanted to do a warm-up drawing before he started drawing the stuff for me. This is the warm-up drawing for issue 2.
Wow.
I liked it so much, I said I want this to be one of the main covers to issue 3. I have 2 main covers, which I'll explain in a second. But with some color corrections and dressing the title and the publisher logo, he did a... I just fell in love with this thing. I really liked how Victor did such a good job portraying their contrasts visually, from the height to the different colors. Some look more menacing than others, and he did it all in the fashion that I feel I think they're represented in a very fair fashion.
They are.
I am a big fan of this cover. On second cover, this is... So this one is the main antagonist cover. Up to this point, we don't know what's going on and who is the source of what is a suspected problem in this story. This cover is the first reveal of, I guess in D&D you call it the big bad evil guy, or girl in this case, the BBEG. This is an elven necromancer, which is kind of a contrast to itself, but it's going to be pretty darn awesome. It was torture not saying anything leading up to this point. It's torture just showing a picture of her, and that's it. But the picture, as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and there's definitely 1,000 words stated here. Who is she? What's going on? Who are the uglies that she has coming out of the ground here? This was drawn by Harv Salteras. I mentioned Dan Ketch era Ghost Rider. Harv Salteras drew the interiors and the covers of the first year of that series. And that was one of the first books I collected back issues and current, and to have him draw something for me. This is the second time I've had him draw something for me, and it is just I said this before with other people, it's like having somebody like Kurt Cobain draw, or Kurt Cobain sing a song that you've written. And for Harv Salteras to draw this thing, it's just very awesome. This is also colored rather by Dan Kemp. Dan Kemp has colored essentially Spawn 50 to 150. So he's colored the ink work of, or the line work rather, of McFarlane, Capallo, Chance Wolfe, all of that era. He
did the covers on my book as well.
Awesome. That's awesome. I love it. If you ever look through those Spawn covers, also the John Romita Jr. era of Amazing Spider-Man, Dan Kemp colored all those. His insignia, that D with 3 dots, it's just cool that, or Marvel Knights Daredevil, another example, he colored all those up. To have somebody that colored the Hellspawn of Image and somebody who's drawn a Hellspawn of Marvel, essentially, and combine them, they've never done that before. They've never combined their efforts. I have had them do that for me a second time, and I'm really happy to facilitate the combination of talent like that. I'm very happy.
That's so cool. I really like that one.
It's definitely going to be a fun third issue, in my biased opinion. And the last thing I'll show you here, this is it's not colored yet. Dan and Dave Kemp will be coloring this one. It's going to be glow in the dark, and the background is going to be all darkness. The only things that'll be glowing are his hands. This is Chazgo, the blue-skinned elf. His eyes, which will be glowing as well, and then lastly the logo behind his head. So his head as a silhouette will be covering it up while it's glowing, but you'll be able to see his eyes in the silhouette. I think that's really going to pop. I'm excited about that.
That's very unique. I like that a lot.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's going to be very good. The person who drew this, he goes by the alias of Pogs Art. I just got this in the mail today, the physical copy of this book. I'll stop sharing here. I don't have any other pictures to share. If you look up Pogs, anybody listening right now, you look up Pogs Art, all of his social media has over 175,000 followers. It's this guy is definitely talented. Came in the mail. It'll flatten out when I frame it.
Wow.
But there it is there. He has a video of him actually drawing this. It's astounding to me how little he pencils. He pencils like barely any of the clothes. It's pretty much just the polygon shapes, and then he just throws the inks down and it's done. It blows my mind. Excuse me, I ate before I was on here.
No problem.
I've got a bunch of other covers that are come out. For this one, I have 7 other covers, and that seems excessive, and I'll agree, but there's reason for it, and I can't say yet. But I've got Fish Lee. He has a cover finished for me that's going to be a lava foil that doesn't come out. I will debut it probably early February. I've got something by Jay Sloan. I really like his work. Who else do I have here? Rod Ramos Rodolfo. He's doing a piece for me. I had a contest winner last year that had their fan art in issue 2, and I hired him to make a cover for me for this issue. So I can't show anything yet, but it's going to be pretty awesome once this stuff starts coming out of the woodwork. If any of you are looking to get updates on this, well, first and foremost, that pre-launch page, that is the most important thing. If you're following that, that's awesome. But if you look up DM Ray on Facebook, DM is just short for Dungeon Master. Also, there's a Madcaps Facebook page, but you can also find me on Instagram. You can find me as Raymond, the DM. DM Ray was taken, so I chose the reverse. I'm going to be showing something once a week leading up to launching, which is going to be March or April, somewhere in that range. So you want to stay tuned for that. I wish I could show more right now, and as these weeks go by, I will be on other podcasts. You are podcast number 7 this week.
Oh, wow.
I was on you an hour before we started. I just wrapped up one. I was on 2 on Monday. I've been all over. So my goal is to be on 3 to 4 podcasts a week, and just make sure people are aware that it's out there.
Yep. Hell yeah. And obviously I'll help promo any way I can. Then
Appreciate it. Thanks,
I'd love to have you on when it launches and we can help
Beautiful.
you out.
Yeah, I'm all in. That'd be great.
Hell yeah. But I think that's a good place to leave it. So let everyone know where they can find you and what you got coming out besides this as well.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So if you've got a lot of podcasts that you listen to, there's a good chance I'll be on there soon. The ones I've already stated, I'll just say them one more time. There's DM Ray on Facebook. There's the Madcaps Facebook page. You can find me as Raymond, the DM on Instagram. You can only be on so many socials right now. Those are the main ones that I promote. There's obviously the pre-launch page. Last I checked, it was at an even 90 followers. The most amount of followers I've had before launch. Oh, I'm at 91. Thank you very much.
That was
I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, man. That's awesome. I guarantee you that you will be able to relate in some way to this story in one form or another. One thing I really like about having good friends is, of course, the way you complement each other, but sometimes you rub each other the wrong way. There's even that in the story. There's some good dynamics at play. And I guarantee you, by the time you read issue 3, the action's justified. To quote my interior artist, Victor Medina, he said, a lot of new writers, they focus hard on what he calls action, action, action. But I've done the opposite. I want anytime there is to be some justified action, I want it to be a statement, as opposed to going from one fight to the next kind of thing. This last issue, the other 2 issues are the build up to it. It's explosive, to put it mildly. There's going to be a lot of chaos, magic, melee, mayhem, monsters, a whole, what other M word can I use, a whole myriad of enjoyable stuff that's going to happen. I guarantee you, when the story is done, you'll walk away feeling satisfied. The story, although it's isolated, it feels like the world existed before. It feels like the world will exist after. And when it's done, this is not a spoiler, but the story ends with the sun going up. The first issue, it starts with the sun going down. It's the entire night. It's a good time. I guarantee you'll read it and be like, yeah, you know what? I'll probably read that again in a little bit. I did enjoy it for what it was.
Sweet. I can't wait to check out issue 3 as someone that has read issues 1 and 2. So you got that going for you, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Stay work, everyone, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.